Hey guys, welcome to another Trade Genius podcast. Bob and Phil here. Guys, we have cyclical cycles, secular cycles, and super cycles. And guess which one we're about to turn down in? We're going to talk about that in this video. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's dive in.
Trade Genius.
Hey guys, I want to tell you something that we do that really will change the way in which you look at trading and also absolutely help you increase your profitability and how much money you make. It's the Trade Genius newsletter. We put the newsletter out Sunday night through Thursday night, and this really looks at the plumbing of the markets and helps prepare you for the next trading day and help you make money. And we give you a lot of information. We give you market statistics, we give you market levels, we give you the seasonality, what's happening with different sectors of the market, and we will help you identify whether the market's in a bear mode or a bull mode, or whether it's euphoric, whether it's despondent, and it just puts you in a position to be on the right side of the trade. So take advantage of our offer that we have below, and you'll love it. I mean, one trade that you make with this thing can pay for definitely a month, maybe even a year's worth of service. It's that powerful. Use promo code podcast for 15% off the retail price of newsletter. Thanks for listening.
So Bob, educate us on these cycles.
Yeah, so, you have, cyclical cycles are like, every 7 years you're going to get a rotation in the stock market. Secular cycle is kind of like half generation, looking at 30, 40-year cycles. But the super cycles are really designed to, when you turn over an entire generation of the population. And we came out of a super cycle, basically the industrial age was essentially from 1820s to 1920s, and you had about 100 years of just productivity growth, population growth, advancements in technology across the board. And what happened then is that we ended up in World War I, and coming out of World War I was basically the end of the age of what we call the monarchies. And we had this pop, and that pop then concluded with the crash in 1929. Now, I'm not going to show you that chart just yet because I want to set up what's happening now in relation to that. And you guys remember, now we went into the end of World War II, we went into the information age, we went into the internet age, and we also went into the end of the Cold War. And it was going to be the new world order, everything's going to be fine and dandy, and now we're setting ourselves up again with a lot of drama. At the same time, we have a population demographic bomb on our hands, not just the United States, around the world, and the system's run on credit. So we look like we're going to be ending what I would call, this could be which is scary for me, maybe the post-democratic age coming into the situation where all these credit fiat-based systems collapse all at the same time. And with that, I want to show you what 1929 looks like. It should be a surprise to nobody, is that you had this coming, in World War I started, then you had this blip in 1916 that failed coming out of World War I. And then in 1920 was kind of like the hangover of World War I. And we actually went into a slight depression. But since they didn't try to fix it, we came out of that thing like a rocket ship. And when we went up to the rocket ship, we peaked in 1929. Up until that point, if you notice the peak, that summer of 1929, everybody was just giddy. There was things is that we'll never have. We reached a permanent high plateau. Those kind of conversations were happening. But underneath, just like today, everything was deteriorating underneath. But they kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and we got this spike, and then also we had this big whoosh down, Phil. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, what happened? And then we get this rebound move that you can see here with the red arrow, and then it failed. And once it failed, we washed out by 80-some%. And from there, it took to the 1950s before we recovered back the losses we made in 1929. Now, we want to flip to today. I want to show you what today looks like. Okay, so here's today's thing, is that we had our S&P 500 move, the dot-com blow up in 2001. Then we had the great financial crisis blow up in 2008. And from there, we were told everything was solved. And look what it did. It just ripped up, okay? and then we fell back. And this is what the Phil you always keep talking about. See the echo push right there on the market since October. Well, we're coming to a point now, guys, where Janet Yellen is going to, within the next week or two, has to replenish the Treasury. At the same time, the Federal Reserve is making the exact same damn mistake that they made during the Hoover administration in terms of tightening credit into a what they thought they were fixing a bubble, but they end up causing a catastrophe. And then Biden always joked Biden is really the Hoover of our day, and so he's going to be saddled with the guy who brought on the Great Depression. So the key for us, and it's a bit of an eye chart for me, Phil, because I can't see it on your screen, is that 76.4 level. That's the level it has to hold for this parallel to be wrong. Okay, if that level doesn't hold, then we're going to drop all the way down to that diagonal that you see in the on the chart, and then there's the washout price, which is under, I think it's in the S&P 400 area. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So if I can throw it back to you, if you can kind of read those numbers off for people, Phil, and then I'd like to get your thoughts, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so the 76.4%, Bob, is about a little over 3,600. And it's actually, it's about where we bottomed out last year, right? So if we take out those lows of last year in Q4, then we're going to start retracing a lot of this, basically that COVID bump. And I think, we've mentioned before in the podcast that things have Eiffel Towered, meaning that they've come back to where they took off from, giving you that Eiffel Tower shape on the chart. And you can see it across a number of different stocks. You can see it in a number of different cryptos. And I think ultimately we run the risk of that chart there getting back to the pre-COVID rally lows. The other thing I wanted to point out, Bob, was the M2 supply has decelerated more. The rate of change on this is unprecedented. We've never seen the M2 supply drop like this ever. And so as far as I can tell, I know this chart goes back to 1950s, but I don't think we've seen such a dramatic change in the rate of change in the M2 money supply. And so the fact that the market is up here near 4,200, I think is a massive gift, because the only reason why we're at these valuations on things like tech, a lot of crypto still, is because the M2 supply spiked, and that's why we have inflation. So part of why this M2 supply is dropping dramatically is the efforts of the Fed. They're adamant on trying to get back to 2% inflation, which isn't a victory, by the way, because you're going back to 2% inflation, but you've absorbed all of the 10% plus inflation that has occurred year over year from the COVID pump. So it's ultimately a loss for the consumer, but still they're trying to get it back down. That's just how out of control inflation is. So they are trying desperately to get this down, and the M2 money supply destruction is one way to do it. And that's just a indirect effect of them doing QT, where they're rolling out their balance sheet, forcing the banks to take back these assets that they took away from them to put them in a better fiscal position. Just too bad they don't do it for us, huh, Bob?
It's amazing. That's why. So you hit it. It's an absolute gift. If you're not preparing for this storm, then you're going to be you're the grasshopper screwing around all summer while the ants getting ready for winter in this situation. So this is kind of scary stuff. I mean, look, it's across the board, guys. The population is falling. So, you're looking at bank credit's going to fall. We're a credit-based society. You're looking at housing prices are going to fall. Most people have their net worth in housing, Phil. They don't have it in the stock market. And that changes people's behavior. And the stock market's been propped up for the last 6 months because Janet Yellen spent $600 billion in order to do so. And she has to now replenish that over the next 6 months. And you're right. You go from 10% inflation for 2 years, and then you go back to 2%. You didn't really break inflation. All you did was just have it at a slower glide path higher. In order for this stuff to come back to normal, you almost have the Eiffel Tower from 1981 and take that move to the top and take 86% off of that, or 87, whatever that number is, the fib number. That's your number, okay? That's how an Eiffel Tower gets recalibrated. And we're seeing it in a lot of areas, so this is just beginning. That if it wasn't for the top 10 tech, we'd already be pressing those S&P numbers. So those guys know what's going on. They're just trying to ease the pain, but this time you got to go along with them. And so you got to be really, really, really careful here. So I just wanted to show you guys that that's the number. If you get below 3,600, then you start looking at every one of these tops that have as support as we ping pong down the stairs to a lower number. So, with that, I don't want to scare you. I just want you to be aware of it. You're not going to take that blowout move and blow out again. People are telling you this stuff. They're assuming that the government is going to go all in on QE, and if they did, it's still a 2-year process for them to get that engine going again. But in the meantime, the middle class and the poor be completely wiped out. And I don't think it's going to be politically palatable, because McCarthy is getting polling support to kill inflation, because people realize that they're not getting any benefit from government spending, but they're sure feeling the pain of government inflation. And as a politician, and if you're a Democrat progressive, that's not the place you want to be, because they're not seeing the value in which you're providing to them. All they're seeing is that you're creating pain for me. And I think that's going to affect the politics and the policies here the next 2 years, at least as long as McCarthy's still in charge. And Phil, I want to make one other thing too, is yesterday we did the Fed liquidity thing, had a lot of interest in it. And, if you can't find anything on the website, just call us, 1-800-949-1408. But everything should be linked on the website as well. And if not today, the next couple of days. But a lot of people called in. It's a really cool tool. And we're going to show you guys some other tools over the next couple months that I think will blow you away, and it sure helps you get on the right side of the trade. So with that, Phil, I'm done. If you have anything else to share, back to you.
Buckle up, Buttercup. That's all I have to say. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe. As Bob said, check out our Fed liquidity tool. In this situation, very helpful. It's going to show you guys where the balances will occur, as where we're probably going to start rolling over, which is the most important part of this next phase in the market. So be sure to check that out. We'll see you on the next episode. Please hit like and subscribe and smash that notification bell and set it to all if you can. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.